Okay, let's see if we're live. I think this should work. Just give me a couple seconds to get my live stream started here, guys. See if the audio works. In the meantime, I'll also open up the chat on my cell phone. Let's see. All right, I seem to be I seem to be live, yeah? Just give me a couple. Good. All right, the audio seems to be working. Welcome. Welcome. Let me just open up Live 12 over here. Yeah, guys. Live 12. I finally got access to it after a couple weeks of waiting. And now I thought today might be a good opportunity to showcase to you the update, whatever's new, and just walk you through a couple of the things that Ableton Live has added. What's up, Danny? What's up, Nirmal? Nice to see you guys in the chat. Yeah. Couple things are new for sure. Couple things are new. As you can see here, the browser's new, but let's start chronologically. First of all, I'd like to say the installation was really easy. I thought it was going to be a bit more complicated. For the Live 12 beta version, you simply install it, open it up, and it just takes your existing library from Live 11, so the previous versions of Live, and imports them here. So I did not have to do anything new here. Like all my collections, all the devices are where they should be, the libraries are where they should be. There was absolutely no problem with installing the new version. Yeah, there's a couple things that I like, that I really like. A couple things that I don't like as much. But where do we start? Yeah, I have a reference track loaded down here in case I want to get into producing. Ideally, I'd have a track that we could work on by the end of the stream, or that I could end up finishing. Where do I start? There is a new browser. At first, I was really freaking skeptical about this thing, but it's actually kind of cool. There's a video by Sonic Bloom where she rants about a couple of the features that she doesn't like in Ableton Live, and I have to agree with her on most of those aspects. I was kind of confused as to why all the plugins are not sorted into the individual subfolders anymore. As you can see here, it's like every plugin is just straight off in this folder over here. And like, you open up plugins and you see all your plugins. Like no VST2, no VST3. It's just all in one folder. And that just was like a major turnoff from me. I was like, oh my gosh, I hope they fix this. And they might end up re-implementing this. I don't know. We're still in the beta version, right? But what I do like is that you can at least set it here. You can select your plugin format over here. And the cool thing is that if you switch panels, it'll keep that saved. So you don't have to always end up reselecting your format. The browser is individual for every single tab. So that means in your audio effects tab, you could select a few audio effects. By the way, if you hit Command or Control, you can select multiple of these. And when you open up a new tab, like let's say we're searching for a sample, then that resets. You get the old filtering system, or you get your old little browser here. But if you want to filter specifically, you can open up the filters panel, open it up over here. You can select instrument, MIDI effect, MIDI sounds, presets, samples, which can be pretty cool. Like you get these additional filtering options, which I do like. Do we have any questions in the meantime? Yeah, feel free to ask any questions. Hello, first of all, thanks for the nice tutorials. Greets from Belgium. Thank you so much for tuning in as well. Yeah, you get this editing panel over here, so you can create new tags as well. I was pretty confused as to why the audio effects are now in this devices tab. Like you get devices here with a capital D and you get devices with a lowercase d. I think that's a bug. They might end up fixing it. I don't know. But the cool thing is that you can also create your own tags. So let's call, I don't know, sussy devices, for example. Then you have your new tag. Or let's say, I don't know, let's go into audio effects. Let's delete this tag for now. Delete sussy devices. I'll give you a more specific example. Let's say over here, right? We want to create a new tag, or you know what? Let's create a new group. We can add new tag groups. These things that you see over here, these are the tag groups. If you add a group, you can call it, for example, again, Sussy Devices. And within those tag groups, you can add individual tags. So whatever you would find in here, for example, underneath the groups, you can find individual tags. And let's just call Sussy Reverb. So you could select the device from within your audio effects panel over here, and then you can click Sussy Reverb. And you can then see that here. You see? Then I can deselect it and that disappears. So that's how the tagging system seems to work. This works for audio effects, it works for plugins, it works for samples. It basically works for everything. You can now tag everything, which makes it really cool. You can see on the side over here, I have Arturia synths, Arturia effects, and native instruments. Those are effects that I access repeatedly. I always get back to those. Instead of having to go to plugins, search for the format, instrument, and then search for native instruments, I can now just save this search with this little plus icon over here. I just hit plus. Oh, cool. Automatically tags that here. Native instruments, AUV2 instruments. So it means every native instrument with the AUV2, the Mac format or the VST format, whatever you want to save, I can access in the side panel of my browser, which is really practical. I thought, you know, first of all, like this browser was really confusing, but this does take away a bit of that confusion. So I'm really happy that they left that in. You can also remove this from the sidebar at any time. If you go into edit, you can now blend in tunings. This is for the unusual type of stuff. So if you have like, I don't know, like there's a ton of like Hijaz, Arabic tunings, and, you know, 13 notes in an octave type tunings, but I'm not sure if this is something that's really as valuable. You can also access the tunings here. You have like this tuning pool down here, and you also have this groove pool as we know it down here. So it used to be this little wave icon here. Now you can access it via this panel. Yeah, it doesn't really bother me too much. I just usually leave it off because I don't know if I'm going to use these. Like, I'm not too familiar with tunings and the different styles, but it's cool that Ableton thought of that. Yeah, what else is there? Yeah, there's a ton of new stuff. Like, I don't even know where to start, but the browser is certainly one of the greatest improvements that they've made. I hope that they kind of change the way the sounds load up by default, because I don't like it when you open up the plugins panel and you see like every effect in here. That really is annoying. But on the other hand, you do get to filter them down like this, so it does make it a bit easier, because previously my Arturia effects would all be in one folder. Really freaking annoying. Now you can find them in these individual subfolders, which makes it slightly more pleasant to use. Yeah, anyway, what else do we have? Yeah, these new tagging things, that's what I explained previously. You can do that for the samples as well. What I find to be really annoying is that Ableton Live does not automatically tag samples. So that means if you, let's say, go into your samples folder, I don't know, just any sample pack folder, drums, loops, clap loops. It would have been great if Ableton Live automatically tagged the loops or one-shots, because now I would have to open up this editing panel over here and open up type. This is a clap loop, right? Let's highlight it as a loop. You can see loop. So whenever I highlight loop, that tag or that specific sound that is tagged with loop will appear. My sample library is literally terabytes in size. Like, going through the individual sounds and tagging them, that's going to take freaking, like, I think it's going to take years. Years maybe is an exaggeration, but you get the point. Like, that's going to take a really long time. And they have this new feature where you can search sounds by similarity over here. That's this little Tweezy, this little guy over here. which I'm going to get into in a second, which is amazing, which basically filters the sounds by similarity. You can see the very similar ones up top and the less similar ones down below. Again, I'll get back to that in a second. But man, this tagging, they could have at least implemented a feature where the tags are set automatically. This might be a game changer for sample pack creators such as Misa, because it might enable me to set the tags previously. So let's say I want to export sounds, or I've exported sounds into a folder. I can then highlight all those sounds, edit, loop, and then perhaps add a few more tags. For example, I don't know if there's another hats over here, hi-hat cymbals, but it's just really scrolly. You get a ton of these tags by default. You have to scroll until you find the right ones. It's a hassle, but it might be a game changer for producers who are producing sample packs and tagging them on their own. So yeah, this might be pretty interesting. Browser and tagging. I wish they would have extended the collections tab. These are the most accessible ways. Like ever since they've implemented this in Live 11, I've only been using these. I kind of wish they would have added a bit more, because I do get the need to add like an extra samples tab over here. I feel like I filtered them down to the very essentials, and yeah, they've done a great job with this filtering and tagging system, but I don't know about that. They could have extended it a bit more. You can see this new modulators panel over here, which basically includes all of the modulators like LFO, shaper MIDI, expression control, and so on, which is good, because previously you used to have to find it under packs, Max for Live devices, and you'd have to scroll through these different folders, or your user library. I believe it was here somewhere. Yeah, for the sake of avoiding that confusion, I just put the LFO in here. But now you can find it under your modulators tab, which is amazing. That's kind of cool that they put it there. But again, just a little minor improvement. With the modulators, you can also see that they have this additional mod panel over here. What does that change exactly? Well, let me show you. Again, the filtering is unique to every panel, in case you missed that, which I find to be really essential. That means if you're in the instruments panel, you get to see all the filters here. And if you want to go back into the mixing panel, you see a completely different overview. Or if that annoys you, just close it. So you get that the old view. Yeah. What I mostly use it for is the plugins tab over here, just to view all the devices. That's really practical. But let's say I have a loop going. Let's get like some kind of top loop. So I'm going to type in top loop. Loops, top loops. Chuck it in here, loop it up, hit play. Let's add an auto pan. Mixing or pan. Where was it again? Audio effects, auto pan. Yeah, chuck it in here. And let's say I want to modulate the rate. Now you see I can tweak the knob. If I put the amount to 100%, and now if I disable this mod, it changes to remote mode, which means it goes back into this mode where you can't tweak the knob anymore, but you see what's going on visually. I don't know if I needed that, because I do like to see the visual changes, the trippiness, but it's still kind of cool that they thought of that. You can change it from bipolar to unipolar, so it moves in one direction here. If you change it to bipolar, it then goes from left to right. See, it jumps from left to right. Unipolar just jumps on one side. It's a cool little addition. I feel like this upgrades the whole modulator thing a bit more. I'm happy that they gave it some thought, these LFO things, because they really improve like the modular workflow in Ableton Live. It's cool that they've upgraded them. Also, you have a few new waveforms here. You get stray, which is like a sine wave, but off, you see? Really great for inconsistent types of LFO movement. And you get glider, which is also some kind of a sine random LFO. Really nice. I like these. Other than that, you get these steps. You can increase these. Then it adds steps to that modulation. So you can combine this random stray LFO movement and add a bit more of a steppy vibe to it. I think this could be pretty cool for drums and percussion. For pads, I would rather insist on having a more glidey movement, so I might change it to glider. Yeah, cool that they've thought of that. I appreciate that. Also, they changed Shaper a bit. So if we go to Shaper, load this up here, Allo, and let's map this to, you know what, let's map a utility. So utility. Do I even have utility in my mixing panel? I don't think I do. I think I usually, yeah. Let's map this to the gain. And let's reduce the output a bit. The depth, I mean, so we don't overload our ears. You get this one-shot mode over here, which allows you to trigger the envelope as a one-shot. Now it's not playing because it's pretty quiet, I think. Yeah, for some reason it's not playing, but I'll get that fixed in a second. We hear something here, yeah? Yeah, you hear that? That's the trigger mode, the one-shot trigger mode. Let me just put it. See? I'm hitting this guy here. And it triggers this envelope at a rate of 1/4 every time I hit it. And now let's crank the rate to a different value. Let's put it to a 1/6. And let's spam it. Okay, that might be a bit too quick. Change it to this value. So it'll basically trigger this envelope in one-shot mode every time I hit this little one-shot trigger, which can be pretty cool for percussions. If you have like, let's say you want to load up a delay. And as you can see, I'm still using my collections tab over here to access my results. But I could also find the delay in a different way. I could go into audio effects, device, delay, and it'll give me all the delays in the audio effects panel. Or I could go into plugins, device, audio effect, AUV2, that's the format that I'm looking for, and then filter through the individual vendors or creators. Can also hit command and select multiple ones, but that doesn't give me anything. Like once I select one, all the other ones are blended out. Or I could just type in delay here, and it'll show me the different delays from the different manufacturers, which is pretty cool. So let's say I want to load up delay eternity over here, and we hit play. That's pretty cool. And you can also map this guy. You can map him to a MIDI controller, or you could also key map it. So you can hit Command K and you can also map it to a certain controller. What I don't like about this feature is that it's toggle. If you want to map it to a MIDI device, it either just turns on or off. And if you just want to trigger one short envelope, it's freaking annoying. Like if you click with the mouse on it, it goes on and off. But if you map it to a MIDI controller, you see it keeps it on. That's kind of annoying. But if you have little knobs that you can twist, you got to twist it like back and forth. That can be really fun if you have an entire percussion groove or top loops. And I feel like it's these small features that nobody showed yet. But it's always the small features that I like the most. You know, they've implemented these new synths, this new effect device, which I find to be cool, but it's the small little workflow type things that I really enjoy the most about these Ableton updates. And again, yeah, see? Let's load up this one here. You know, if you have a loop with congas, bongos, like a really organic sounding one, that can be pretty cool. This little one-shot mode. You also get this manual mode, which allows you to dial in the envelope manually, and you'll see that here. At this point, it does not trigger anything because it's at a 0 point. At here, it'll trigger the entire sample. And you can also change the envelopes and literally scroll through. And a fun thing that you could do is assign a modulator, an LFO, to this manual knob. Let's put the LFO, the delay afterwards. Pretty freaking cool. Like, you get these inconsistent little percussion fills just from doing that. And it's a really, again, I'm really happy that they emphasized the updates on the modulators. Yeah, you can also individually, like if you go into multi-map, you can select, like, let's say you want to map a second control to the depth, but you want to be able to access that via remote. Then you can tweak it here. Or let's say you want it to oscillate by its own. You can go into this mode over here. So it just oscillates on its own. Amazing. Really cool that they've thought of that. Yeah. I think multiband looks slightly different. I don't really care about that, to be honest. The interface, I think, just got a slight little update with the colors here. The low band looks really red. The middle band looks blue. The high band looks yellow. You can also access the help panel at any time over here. Where is it? View, help view. And you can see what's new in Ableton Live 12. What's new in Live? Just go through these individual panels. That's what I did. Or you could also access the website here, Live 12 beta release notes. And I took the time today to read through the individual frickin' things. So you don't have to, I guess. Oof, yeah, MIDI tools. That's probably one of the more complex things of this entire update. They've added a ton of different MIDI capabilities, but before I dive into that, I would like to quickly show you the most fun feature that they've added to this update. That is this, holy shit, this, like, I'm not trying to make an ad for this, but I would say it's worth paying the upgrade simply for this similarity search feature. If you have a loop or a sound that you really like, let's go for something a bit more complicated. Let's go for a top loop with a variety of different sounds included in it. Like this one, for example. This is a top loop that contains shakers, percussions, and a lot of in-between little fiddly detail sounds. And if we you see this guy over here? That's the similarity, what is it called? Similarity search. If we click it, you get to see every sound that I have selected in this LotusTunes folder. So it'll basically search through every one of the LotusTunes sound packs for similar sounds, and it ranks them by similarity. So the top sound is the original, and the sounds below that are sounds that sound similar to that. And you can see, let me delete my little search here, top. You can see that it automatically searches that in the search bar. It puts the similar sound or the sound that you want to have similar sounds to in the search bar. That means you can also go through your different folders. For example, my samples all folder, and it gives me sounds that sound similar to that first top loop. That is fucking amazing. And it's really great because it enables you to use all the diverse sounds that you have in your sound packs, but you have never accessed, because usually when you look for sounds that sound similar, this would be the workflow, right? Let's say you find this sound over here. Now you have to go into samples. Let's say I want a production music live pack. I don't know, shaker loops. And you'd kind of have to look through every individual sound until you feel like you find somewhat of a similar sound, and kind of chunk your way through these individual packs, these folders, go through maybe Organica. Where are the top loops? Let me type in top here. And then you'll find the sounds. But then you'll still be stuck to that individual sample pack and this folder, right? Then you'd start scrolling through the sounds of this folder, meaning that they'll all sound similar because they are created by, let's say, one person. I think for this pack it was Yannick Mounts. So I'd have this Yannick Mounts vibe for every sound that I'm looking through. Whereas if I search for similar sounds, let me do this one for this one again, I'd get access to a variety of different similar sounds from different packs and different folders. For example, right now I'm going through all the LotusTunes packs. So you get some sounds from Yerevan, some sounds from Azar, Daydreamer. And it does a pretty good job with filtering them. Like, most of them have a top loop vibe to them. And if you'd go into samples, there we go. And you can basically, let's say this one, this sound that we just heard, we like that. Let's click on Similarity search here, and then it gives me sounds that are similar to that one. So you could basically go into this endless freaking loophole of finding similar sounds. And by this indication, you can see that it's not as similar to this one over here, but it's still a top loop, right? A no kick loop. And sometimes you'd find these really weird sounds from sample packs that I didn't even know I had. Like this WV2, I don't even know from which folder that is. What's kind of annoying is that if you right click, you cannot show in browser. I don't know why they don't have that. For example, if I like a sound, I'd like to be able to access the folder. To bypass that, you'll have to drag it in, right click, and then you show in browser. And then you see, okay, this is from some kind of sample pack. Oh, PML Woodlands Volume 2. I never thought of using that, didn't use that in like a year or so. Now I might use it because of the Similarity search feature. I think that's probably one of the coolest things about Ableton Live 12. I'm going to be honest with you. That's my favorite addition to Ableton Live 12, because before that I was using Loop Cloud, Loop Masters. So basically I would pay monthly for a feature that would search for samples on my hard drive. Let's see. I think this opens up in a new panel over here. Yeah, let's just give it a bit of time to load. Let's exit full screen mode so we can see this app. And you see it's really fiddly to kind of get these external software running in your DAW. And I think you can then search for sounds in here somewhere. I didn't use it for quite some time. Collections, audio filters. Where can I? Library, exactly. And this would give you the opportunity to search through sounds and also tag them here. So let's say top, and then I could go through sample packs this way, but then again, I would have to, where is it? Voila. Here. See, it's really annoying. You always have to open app and kind of work in this half full screen mode and build your drums together here. It's also fun, but it's nice to see that Ableton Live has finally integrated a feature that basically makes it possible to do this in the DAW without having to rely on external software, right? And it also basically just replaced Loop Cloud Drum. Discard. Let's delete this. This thing is annoying. Loop Cloud Drum is a drum rack that basically relies on its ability to generate you different types of drum grooves. I don't know why it's loading this guy now. Oh, geez, there we go. So I could generate these different patterns here. I don't know if this is going to work now. Yeah. So this is what Loop Cloud Drum does. It has a drum rack with individual sounds loaded. Oops. Walla bila. Yeah. Has a drum rack with individual drum sounds loaded, and you can just generate new patterns or generate new sounds for every individual pattern by hitting this generate knob over here. But you'll see that it sounds kind of sussy. Like, I don't know how exactly the sample swapping algorithm works behind this, but it does work. But in Ableton Live 12, you can now do that without having to rely on these monthly subscription thingies by Loop Cloud, because you just have it in drum rack, which is just crazy. You know what? Let's load a clip. A clip contains MIDI information as well as the drum rack. Let's go for 808. 808 Core Kit or something like that. Yeah, this should be fine. Oops. Let's put that into a new, let's just put it in here. There we go. So this is the Core Kit. And now, you guys see this? That's the same little knob that we had previously in the Similarity search for the samples. But now we can also do that within the drum rack. So we open up, and you can start to scroll through individual sounds and replace them with sounds that sound similar. So let's open up okay, this is probably not the best sound to use, the best drum rack, but let me open up another one. I think I have a decent one by Distilled Noise. Micro House Tools. Yeah, this is one that I got from Distilled Noise. It's a perfect one to illustrate what I'm speaking of. So again, similarity search, or I think in this case it's called similarity swapping, sound similarity swapping. Click. Now if we hit play, this is our drum groove, right? These are the sounds that are loaded in here. And of course I could create drum racks with these sample swap macros, chain lists, and do all that complicated stuff. But Ableton Live has now simplified that with these tools over here. If I just hit right, wait. Can I search through the individual sounds actually here? No. Then I'll do it for another device. I don't know why it didn't work for this, but let's just see if it works for 808 Core Kit, the standard little kit that we got here. I'm just going to reload that in here. Yeah, because I think the Distilled Noise rack has too much chain list action going on. But if we do it here, each time I click, it loads a different sound into one of these panels. See? That sounds similar. The only issue that I feel like this has is it sounds a bit too similar. For example, the 808 Core Kit, the sounds have a very unique and distinct vibe to them. They sound really 808-y. 808-y. So Ableton Live looks for samples that sound the same, resulting in just pitch variation, right? You don't get a lot of difference. Like the kick. I think the reason why it doesn't work is that if you are in sampler, it doesn't work. Maybe we have to do it in simpler. I understand. Because of the fact that we have multiple samples loaded up in here for this bass drum, we can't switch it out. So it only works for individual samples. Okay, I learned something new. If you like a sound, you can lock it. Similar to how Loop Cloud Drum works, you can lock sounds. And you can switch through every sound that hasn't been locked. So now you can see it switching through the snare drum and the clap. But I could replace this sound for a completely different sound. Let's say I want a organic clap. So I'll go into One Shot's clap. Go for something really sticky sounding, like a stick, right? Now let's switch through the hand claps. There we go. Getting some really interesting results here. Yeah. See, so if you stick to the standard Roland 808, 909, 707, you can really count on getting similar results. I think it's going to give you really, it's going to give you sounds within those kits, within the 707, 909, 808. It's not going to randomly give you sounds from organic house or something like that, or melodic techno type claps or downtempo claps. It's not going to go too crazy. Whereas if you put in a sample that already sounds somewhat organic, it will give you more organic claps or more organic sounds. That's exactly how I'd like it to work. You know, Loop Cloud Drum, the software that I showed you previously, which didn't really work properly, I feel like it just loads sounds too randomly. It takes sounds from packs. Sometimes it accidentally takes a kick sound and replaces it with a low tom, which I don't want. But I feel like this has subtlety to it. Like, it doesn't go crazy by loading in sounds that feel too different. And I feel like that's good. Ableton did a good job on that. What else is there? Max for Live didn't change anything here. I don't like the fact that now everything is in one folder. Previously it was sorted into Max for Live MIDI effects, Max for Live audio effects. Now you have to set that filter manually over here. Annoying as frick. And you get these tons of different like filtering options, which I find to be not so necessary. But Max for Live, again, my favorite devices, I just put him into the M4L collections pad over here so I don't have to scroll through these different panels. Other than that, yeah, the thing that I do not like at all, and I'm gonna have to rant, I'm gonna have to really complain about this. I have no freaking clue why Ableton did this. If you Command Option M, you blend in the mixer, and you get to see the mixer in your arrangement view. So if you already have a small screen, a laptop screen, you're going to see less of your arrangement panel. And to make it even worse, if you can now open up the MIDI device panel simultaneously with the, how do you call this actually? Let me give it the right names. Clip view selector with the device view selector. So the device view selector is this panel down here, the panel where you can see your devices. Clip view selector, that's the panel where you can see your MIDI information or your audio information if you select an audio clip. Right? So you get all these different windows in one panel. Okay, I could close off the mixer, but then I'd get these two. Before we had this, the usual way would be to either have one or the other opened and switch through both of them with Shift and Tab. Literally, when I'm producing, my pinky and my these two fingers here, they're on Shift and Tab the whole time. And it feels comfortable. It doesn't feel like an unnatural position for the hands to be. Shift and Tab, there we go. We're in the arrangement view. We see everything here. Shift and Tab, open up the audio, work with the audio. I could even, like if I want to do more intense edits, I just increase the size, Shift and Tab, back into arrangement view. click a MIDI clip like that, Shift and Tab. There we go, Shift and Tab out. Now you have to open this up, and if you'd like to go for a more in-depth edit on the MIDI, you can do it here, but you don't have Shift and Tab anymore. Shift and Tab, remember, switches from clip view to device view. You see, it switches from my device to MIDI, device to clip view. So I can't go back into the arrangement view. I'd either have to decrease the size, meaning that I'd always have to open it back up if I want to go for a more intense edit, or there's a command to open this, Command Option 3 on Mac. I'm not sure what it is on Windows, but the command you can see here. It's in the Live 12 beta release notes somewhere here. I think it's keyboard navigation or somewhere here. All the commands are listed. It's freaking annoying. Like, why would you want to cram all these things into the arrangement view? I don't understand. If any of you has, if you know how to use this, feel free to drop it in the comments below. But I have no freaking clue why they decided to cram this all into one window here. So Shift and Tab becomes useless if you have both of these enabled. And another way to combat is to have your finger on Option Command 3 the whole time, which looks like this. I'm basically sitting like a freaking dinosaur on my fucking keyboard, and trying to hit Option Command 3 to open up this panel. So that basically just opens up the clip view, right? That would be another way to combat it, to be able to access device view and clip view at the same time. For me personally, like, this is very new to me, so I haven't had the opportunity to search through or spend time on it. Maybe there might be a use case where I'd like to use the device view simultaneously with the MIDI. But honestly, Shift Tab is freaking quicker. Like, Shift Tab, okay, I want to do a change to the device view. Perfect. Let me change the release. Shift Tab back into MIDI. And I basically get to use the entire screen. Back into arrangement view, I get to see my clips. And do you guys remember the panels that you used to have here? The little R, the little IO, the little D, to open up the delay, reverb, the sends, and all that kind of stuff. That's just gone now. They put it here. It's all in here. And the thing is, you'd have to, wait, I need to drink some water, man. I don't want to complain, but this really is, I don't know why you'd want to change that. I feel like that's, they just downgraded it. You could have left that in there. So you could blend in the track options, let's say, to be able to see the latency. There's this new keep latency button, which I do not know what it does. I've tried to enable it, disable it. I didn't see any difference there. In and out. Crossfader, performance impact, and if you blend in all these features, and if you create return channels by hitting Command Option T, dude, where's my screen? Where's my screen? And you now have the option to make these faders larger. I don't know how that works now. You can enlarge these faders, but like, I can't see anything. Like, already with this mixer panel enabled with all these sends, I can't see anything. I think this is because Ableton Live wanted to make it more intuitive for people to mix with these horizontal clips horizontally. But why? Like, I could just hit tab the way I'd used it previously and mix it here if I'd want to mix horizontally, right? And the annoying thing is that you can't scroll from left to right. You'd have to hit shift and scroll. And you can scroll either that way, or you could use this little panel that pops up, this see-through thingy. And if I don't want to see my returns, I could blend them out here. right? But let's say I want to use the returns, the send and returns. I want to see those here. I blend them in, but I don't want to have this mixer. Okay, let's blend the mixer out. I don't see the returns here. Let's say I dedicate myself to working in this panel. I don't want to have that annoying little mixing view, that little mixing window here. But that's weird. I blended in the return tracks. Why aren't they there? Well, that's because I have to now go into View. I think it was Mixer Controls. No, not even that. Arrangement Track Controls, and blend them in here. That is annoying as frick, and there's not even a shortcut for that. Previously, you would just hit R, and for me, that was really practical. On my little Mac, on the little laptop, when I'm on my little laptop, I would just blend in that R to see my return channels, and then turn it back off. But now you'd have to go into this panel, View, Mixer Controls, or no, Arrangement Track Controls, excuse me, and then blend them out here. Or reblend them in. And I'd love for them to include a shortcut for that, because that is just, that's pretty annoying. Yeah, you see there's a shortcut to blend them in for the mixer, that little thing that we got to blend in before, but there's no way to blend them in when you're in the arrangement view. I would have preferred it the other way around, but okay, sure. That's something that I feel like is a massive downgrade. Maybe there might be a few updates to this. We're still in the beta. We're still getting a lot of changes along the way. And when Ableton Live is released, there will probably be a couple people that, or a lot of people that know how to use both of these panels at the same time, both the clip view and the device view. But for me personally, I don't see any advantage of that yet. Especially this mixer. Like, why cram that in to one window? So people that have two screens and would just hit Command-Shift-W, I think Command-Shift-W is allows you to split your mixer. So if you're using two screens, you can split this guy, Session View, and drag it into a new screen and have your arrangement view on the left screen. So if you're using two screens, there's no sense in having this mixer here because you already have it on the right. Why would you want to have two, right? I felt like they wanted to make this whole mixing thing slightly more attractive in Ableton Live because, you know, Logic, FL Studio, they all have these really great mixers, but Ableton Live was always more of a horizontal thing here. But if you make such improvements to your mixer, then why try to cram everything in the arrangement panel? Like, why try to do that? Something that I would do, and something that they have been working on, and by the way, guys, this is a feature that is hidden. I hope I have it enabled here. Let me see if I have it on. Was it View? I'm speaking of the ability to see the effects here. So let's say I don't have that much going on. Let's say I blend out a couple of the devices. Let's say I don't want the crossfader. I don't want the track options. Heck, I don't even want that many returns. Don't even want the I/O. Let's keep it really basic, really simple. Let's see if I have that loaded here. I don't know if I have it loaded. Mixer controls overview. Toggle device clip view. Groove pool tuning controls. Okay, I don't have it enabled, but I think second window arrangement, groove pool tuning, search and browser, mixer controls, arrangement track controls. There's a way to patch it into live. Toggle clip. I think didn't I install it today? Okay, I seemingly didn't. There is a way to put in a text file into the Ableton preferences folder so that you can see your effects that are usually here. But that's buggy as frick. Maybe I can open Live 11. I think I have it installed in here. You can see your effects differently. Do I have it here? Track delay returns. I think I took it out. Yeah. But if you want to learn to do it quickly, no, I'm not going to show that now. I think that's going to take too much time. If you want, you could search up tutorials on how to do that, on how to allow your effects to be viewed vertically. But that's something that I would have liked, you know, because each time, and Sign, they're a German YouTube channel. They made a video on this. They explained a couple of points, which are fantastic. If you want to load an effect, let's say you have a gigantic chain like this, huge effect chain. You want to load an effect right here after the EQ, before the delay or the utility, whatever. You'd have to do it this way. Why not implement a feature where you click on the effect, double click, and the effect automatically is placed there? Because if you add an effect at the very end of the chain, you'd always have to scroll until you find the right position. Pretty annoying. Like that's a workflow thing that could have been added to make it more attractive. Yeah. Major rant. I don't know, man. A lot of features that I like, a lot of features that I don't like as much. But I'm not a fan of this, like, let's put everything into arrangement view. Let's make it visually overstimulating. I feel like Ableton Live has always been this very minimalistic, slick, not that much going on type DAW. That's also why it is always so gray, and you know, a lot of people were like, oh, Ableton's so gray and FL Studio is far more colorful. That's because Ableton is straight to the point. Ableton Live is straight to the point, and that has worked very well for me. It allows me to focus on what matters, the music. And I feel like they've really crammed it up here. But that might change. Yeah, I just felt like ranting about it because it really, I don't know, it got on my nerves. I feel like all these features, I'm not going to use them. I'm going to be really honest. I'm going to stick with Shift and Tab and just continue to use Ableton the way I used it previously. So what else we got? Let's dive into the frickin' MIDI. Now, MIDI got a massive update. I'm going to create a MIDI clip here, put it below my drum rack. And let's say we want to create a rhythm. So we double click the MIDI clip. Straight off the bat, you get to see, okay, we have a couple new panels over here. Also got a couple new panels over here, and it looks a bit different down here. Yeah, that's because it's different. They patched it. They updated it. You get to generate stuff. So Ableton Live kind of picked up on the fact that a lot of people are liking the whole generative workflow. And I feel like that makes Ableton Live stand out. That's what I believe is also one of the reasons why my YouTube channel, a couple videos got a lot of views because of these generative things. I discovered the Roser Advanced Step Sequencer. That was one of my first ever step sequencers, or Max for Live devices that I got in touch with. And it completely opened up a new perspective for me because it allowed you to generate things. And I feel like Ableton picked up on that, and now you can literally generate rhythms here. So I could select, for example, the bass drum. Right now we're working with drum rack, right? That's why this rhythm generator panel, very practical. You could generate a kick drum groove. So let me solo this track. That's the wrong track. Is it? I think it's muted. Is it muted? Let me reload the rack here. Just a second, guys. I think I kind of messed with it previously. Just reload it from scratch. Yeah, there we go. Let's load it up in here. Yeah. Okay. Without even clicking one little note. And if you're into more offbeat stuff, then that rhythm generator might be a great starting point. Okay, cool. So we got that basic kick rhythm going, right? Got a couple comments. You can scale the screen size in prefs, but you need more eyesight. Yeah, you could, but if you're working on a really small screen, then I feel like scale doesn't really give you that much anyway. Offizieller Release-Termin weiß ich noch nicht. Das weiß ich nicht. Die sagen Anfang 2024. Beginning of 2024 is supposed to be the release date. Okay, let's say we want to generate us a clap rhythm. So let's go into Rimshot. Okay, I don't know why it does it separately. I thought it does it extra. Let's see. Oh yeah, you have to deselect your MIDI notes first before you do that. So again, let's Rimshot. There we go. Highlight these. Different pattern, please. Higher density. How about 16ths? Less steps. That's freaking cool. And let's say, okay, you can also use your arrow keys to shift through different patterns, which I find to be really cool. So you see, I'm using arrow up and down, arrow left and right to scroll through different patterns. And then we can put it on the hi-hat, the closed hi-hat. So you see, it's giving us these really offbeat polyrhythmic type grooves because we have 9 steps. That's an odd number. If we change it to 8, it gives us more consistent groove. And since we've selected Rimshot here, it's always going to do that for the Rimshot. If I want to do it for the hi-hat, then I just put it here. Of course, we want to do that for the hi-hat, the closed hi-hat here. Pretty cool. Quick way to get started with a groove, quick way to come up with an idea in a different way, a different approach. And I'm not a fan of doing this. Like, okay, if it's necessary, then, and if I feel like taking my time, sure. But if I feel uninspired and I want to come up with some type of groove quickly, then this is a new way to do so. And I feel like this is like a Max for Live that has been implemented into Ableton Live. You can also highlight, change the lowest point of the velocity, the highest point of the velocity here. And you see that's being reflected in this velocity panel. You also get this deviation panel, which allows you to create velocity deviations. So some notes will be triggered at a higher or lower velocity. It's like a randomization panel. Pretty cool. So that's the rhythm generator. You get a ton of different more. You get the seed. Allows you to change the rhythm completely again. But that's not what I'm looking for. All these little functions are functions that I personally need to get into. But I feel like they've made massive improvements there. Feels slightly overwhelming. For me, it's a bit too much. Like, I'm going to continue to use Ableton the way I know it and just kind of step by step get into all these little things. Also, previously, you had the opportunity to double time or half time here. Now you can also go really off time. So you can stretch it by odd numbers here. So I think for for hip hop or trap producers, that can be really interesting to create hi-hat rolls or stuff like that. Also for minimal house, I think those offbeat ghost note hi-hats can be really interesting. So that's something that's really great. Also, you get humanize, which humanizes the groove, basically offsetting the notes slightly. You can set the offset amount here. You can change the grid. I'm not sure what that does, to be honest. I think you can also invert the MIDI notes, but that was a function that was available previously as well. Transform, here's where it gets really trippy. I don't think I'm going to go into detail. You get this transform panel, where you can basically change the existing notes that you have. It's ideal for melodies. It's not really great for drums. You can use it on drums, but it's better suited for melodies and arpeggios and those kind of stuff. We'll get back to that in a second. You see I have this little humanized groove. I can reduce the humanization amount. And if you open up the quantization panel, by the way, it looks like this. Command-Shift-U. Automatically opens up transform, quantize, right? So quantization is now here. And you get to see the amount of quantization in real time. So if I have notes that are off grid, you basically get to quantize in real time, which is, I think, pretty cool. It's not available for audio, although audio also has a quantization panel. So if I Command-Shift-U, you get to see it here. And if I'd apply, it quantizes the audio. Before that, you would get a pop-up window that would open up each time, and you'd have to hit apply, pop-up window, hit apply. Now you just get to do it here. So they've changed that. Yeah, a lot of functions, man. I don't know where to start. Like, I'm continuously mentioning new functions. And yeah, I've created a drum rack with my favorite, like a few of my favorite percussions that I like, organic percussions, also sample swap. This is how it sounds on its own. Just load up some core kit MIDI information here. And if I want to swap through sounds, there we go. How fucking amazing is that? That's like so fun. And it creates these like interesting clap rhythms and all. That's honestly one of my favorite functions ever. And I could save the drum rack, maybe use it for a later point in the track. But yeah, MIDI gets really crazy. So if we, so that's what we came up with by just randomizing stuff. So let's use an EQ8 here. I'm just gonna quickly lay down a groove. I don't know why my EQ isn't showing here. Maybe it's because I have some kind of filtering enabled. I don't know. Usually I had EQ here, but for some reason it is not here anymore. Audio effect, EQ. Okay, sure. Let's go audio effect, EQ, EQ, EQ8, please. There we go. Let's say we want a different kick drum. Sure thing. Okay, we can't change it because it's in multi-sample mode. Maybe I can just drag and drop a kick from a pack directly onto the layer. So kick, maybe some kind of music kick. Yeah, place it here, trim it. And yeah, what I would have liked is the ability to still switch through sounds that I've cropped out. Like once you've cropped out a sound, you can't sample swap, which is annoying, but hey, it is what it is. Like even if I open up the mixer here, the only advantage that I see is that you get to see the volume proportions, which you would usually have in classical mixing or on a mixer. They have made it easier to see where the level is set to, and that allows you to see the proportions in volume, which is more ideal for mixing. But the fact that you have to scroll anyway, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's our reference track. Another thing that I'll just jump into this really quickly. Finally, if you double click audio, you can now automate these guys here. Yes, but you do it here. You don't have the, I think previously it used to be down here. You have to go into transposition, clip, modulation, and kind of find your way through here with the envelope. Now you can just go here, envelopes, and you'd find it here. So let's say we want to go into beats, clip, and you can see everything that you can modulate currently. So let's go to transient envelope and modulate this guy. So now we're at 100. Let's change it to forward transient so we get more of a snappy signal. So when we're at a low value, it's very snappy. When we're at a high value, it's very loose. And let's hit S to solo this guy here. You don't see the value changing in real time. But I think that's intentional because you can still change it here. That is really cool. So if you have a sound like this with a lot of percussion, a lot of Foley, you can, in some sections, have more transient to punch through, like in these. And in some sections, you have a really tight signal, right? So in this section over here, it's really loose. In this section over here, it's really tight. Really great for sound design and percussion. I got some kind of an offbeat groove going here. Yeah, I felt like doing a live stream because Ableton Live has so many new functions. You can't just tightly explain it in one video. I feel like doing it a bit more in depth because most of the videos that I find out there are like, okay, touch this and by the way, Ableton Live has this new filtering option and you can now do new tags. Bye bye. Next video. I mean next area. I feel like this is a bit more in depth. Just a live stream where I showcase like most of the important functions. Let's actually low cut this here. Yeah, you can now generate chords in Ableton Live. Literally. So let's say we want a diva. Hello. Why is this opened here? Okay. Diva. Okay, we see 3 divas. We only want 1 diva. Put it here. Load up a preset that I feel like could fit. Like this. Or maybe we have more of a chord. Yeah, this is perfect. You now have the scale awareness button. So you can click this, lock your scale to C, let's say minor. And now every MIDI effect has, I believe every MIDI effect, like pitch, scale, chord, arpeggiator, has a scale awareness lock or scale lock button. You can now lock the scale. So all the notes that are generated from arpeggiator will be output in the scale of C minor no matter what. I mean, you could do it here. That's why these are both locked now. But I feel like this does give you a bit more, room to play with scales. Like previously, I'm really lazy. Like I would load up the scale device here. I've even saved it into sound design, major, minor. Now you can find the major, minor device right from the scale device directly. So scale. Or how was it again? I think they implemented some kind of feature where the scale device presets could be loaded here. Let me just load in scale. Yeah. Here. If you load in scale, it looks like this. And you now have the opportunity to load in your scales from within the plugin itself rather than having to rely on these presets. So that's kind of cool. You can lock the scale again. You can transpose it, and no matter how you transpose it, it will always be locked to C minor, which is pretty cool. If you have a pitch device loaded by default on every one of your tracks, all you really need to do is just lock it here, and it'll just lock everything that is output to the scale of C minor. So now I could just start jamming, and it'll just output me everything in C minor, no matter what key I press, which is just, like, for those people who don't have any idea of music theory, that's just legendary. I literally just holding all the notes on my keyboard. Yeah, pretty useful. Pretty cool little feature. And just overall, the interface has been upgraded a bit more just to give you a visual representation of what's going on with the notes. This has no function whatsoever. You can't click it or do anything with it. All it does is show you how the notes move, in which order, which can be kind of cool. Yeah. And just overall, the interface has been a bit updated, as you can see. So Arpeggiator we now have updated. Also, we have the Arpeggiator in here. So if I want to, let's say I want to create a MIDI clip without having to resample the MIDI into a new layer, I can now create an arpeggiated section here. But therefore, I would have to have some notes. So I need to have some kind of like chord. Let's start with that first. So generate us, please, stacks. I hope you guys can see this. I know it's pretty small. Stacks are chords. All right. I could also generate us a shape. So if I draw freaking shapes, it generates me shapes in the scale of C minor. You can see every note is locked to C minor. You get a couple presets here as well. So I bet this might be really interesting if you want to come up with some kind of like Sébastien Léger type melody thing. Just randomize the velocity. I feel like something that I want to mention, which I find is really important and has the highest priority above all. Everything that is integrated should be like, the reason why I make my YouTube videos is not to show, look at this cool device. Wow, look what it can do. That's it. You know, just show like the engineering aspect of it all. For me, a device has to have some kind of musical relevance or should be able to be used in a musical context. It's nice to have all these little features, these randomizations, but how do you use them in a musical context? For me, that's the most important thing above all, because people at the end of the day want to make music. You know, for engineers, that might be a bit different. They just want to come up with weird sounds and have all these different functions and controls at their fingertips. For me, it's about conveying the emotion, making music. And I believe that every feature implemented should make it easier. At first, like all these, it's kind of a lot. It's a lot to take in. But if you take your time, I think you can get a lot out of these. For example, the chords. Where was that again? I think it was stacks, right? You get to generate chords here, which can be pretty useful. Let me delete everything and just start from scratch with the chords. So stacks. Right here, you can see pay attention to this little panel over here. I hope you guys can see it, by the way. If you, let's say, okay, our scale, we're in C minor. So let's select C minor. See, when I hover above this panel over here, again, pay attention to the little text. I don't know if you can see it on your screen. I can't zoom in now. You see chord? C, E flat, G. That's a C minor chord. Scale degrees 135. That is amazing. For the sake of being able to learn, that is amazing. You can add another stack. Hit plus. Second chord. Let's say, okay, let's drag it up. I'm just scrolling. I'm holding and scrolling these. So the first chord is a basic C minor chord. The second one is a C minor sharp 5. Third one, C minor 7th, C minor 9th, C sus 4. It kind of scrolls through all the different chords that you could use. And the great thing about this is that you can also add inversions. So it'll basically pitch the lowest note up an octave, starting with the first note here, right? The first inversion. For the second inversion, it will pitch this one up an octave. Pay attention. Tuck. Third inversion, it just pitches it up to 3 octaves. So you get 3 inversions. Pretty cool. Let's half time it. Then let's hit plus again. Oops. Let me actually, first of all, let's generate a couple chords first, and then let's half time it. So let's create a clip that's slightly longer, like this. Command J. Double click. There we go. Delete these two. So now we have 1, 2, 3. If you hit preview, you can preview them, which is practical. So just hit your headphone knob over here. Okay, pretty nice. Third chord. Opala. Let's, why is it making it so long? I don't know. Let me undo that, please, actually. Let me start from scratch. So first one. Kind of complicated to understand, as you can see. Second one. Let's consolidate these and halftime them. So first chord. Yeah, a bit confusing even for me to understand. I think it takes, it creates chords in the section that you've highlighted. So if you highlight this section, it will create 4 chords within that highlighted section. That's good to know. So if we want to create 4 chords within this entire loop, we'll have to highlight everything. Hit Command A, right? Command A. Create our first stack. Second, third, fourth. So we have 4 chords now. We can add a total of 4 chords within the highlighted selection. And right now we're working with this 8-bar MIDI clip. And by the way, just as a tip on the side, usually right click, 8th note, that's the way to go. Right now you can open up this panel over here. For those of you who don't feel like right clicking for some reason, they also added it here. So we got the first chord. Second chord, let's add maybe an inversion. So the third chord, like for house music, for electronic dance music, progressive house, organic house, really depends on the style that you're aiming for. We usually don't have that much chord variation going on. Mostly stuck to like basic chords with inversions. But that depends. Like Tim Green, if you pay attention to his chords, man, they have a lot of variation. Let's change the root maybe. So increase the loop length here. And it's always in scale. The third chord is a B flat major chord. Fourth chord, so if we select that, if we select the chord, it dials in on that specific chord. Whereas if we select 1, 2, okay. One chord, it changes that here accordingly. But if we select 2 stacks, it doesn't work. Maybe that's intentional, I don't know. Maybe we can add a variation at the end. So change it from, this is now a C minor sharp 5 chord. Let's see if it works. By hitting Option Space, which is a command that existed before as well, you can play from the playhead. Inversion, maybe add an inversion. So let's add the lowest note an octave up. Sure, and you can switch through all these different types of chords. Pretty cool, pretty freaking cool. Like if you're not familiar with music theory, this does still add a bit of educational bonus to it. It shows you the exact chords that are used here. So E flat, G, D, C, that would be a C minor 9th over E flat. Whatever. But it's good to know, right? It's good to know that that specific chord sounds that way. And then you learn, okay, maybe I could use this chord here, which is B flat major, and play a C minor 9th over E flat after a major chord, right? So that's something that's worth keeping to account. Like you can always learn along the way. It's not just generate, give me results out of nowhere. It's a bit of an educational value to this as well. And you can highlight, you can create these velocity ramps. So we start low, go high. That's something that Keine Musik does a lot. They start very low in velocity and move up in velocity throughout the entire track. So you could instead of going, you know, into the little velocity for every single note, you can just create ramps now with these two. Right? We start low, go high. Can also here randomize the total velocity. That's nice. I don't like the last one so much, to be honest, so I'll just... What the frick? Yeah, I'm still getting used to it. For some reason it changed one chord to 4 now. That's not what I was looking for. I just wanted to change the last chord. Okay. Okay, son. Do I have to highlight it or do I just edit it from here? Okay, I just edit it from here. Okay, perfect. Why the webcam is blurry? Because the webcam sucks. I didn't want to turn on this light. Maybe that fixes it. Usually if I move into the camera, out and in, that helps. Yeah, but it's mostly about Ableton Live. That's what's important here. And, okay, so you get these stacks, which is nice. Really cool. Let's say you want to transform these stacks. You can do that with the transform panel. You can arpeggiate them. Once you tweak a knob here, that's where it completely transformed the notes. Now you have an arpeggiated sequence out of the chords. Too much distance. Let's keep that distance within maybe 7 halftone steps or 7 SD. These are not halftone steps. This is something else. I think these are intervals, semitones or... Yeah, so we're jumping within that perfect fifth range, if that makes any sense. We can also reduce the steps so it jumps up octaves. Steps 1, 1 octave. Steps 2, 2 octaves. So it repeats the sequence, the arpeggiated sequence, twice. It repeats it twice, but the second time it repeats it, it goes up an octave. So it's not that will be one step, right? Or this. Now let's take it up an octave. Take it up 2 octaves. You can change the style here. So rather than having to rely on the arpeggiator, you can now see what it is that you're doing and you can see it live. You can also highlight the scale here. This is a new option. It shows you these lines. You can also blend in only the notes that are within the scale. You can also fold. Fold means you are folding all the notes, only the notes that are being used currently. So these spaces in between that don't have any notes, they're going to be folded away. Gate shortens the notes, but again, that will highly depend on the envelope settings of your synth. So if you have a really long release on your synth, this gate won't really matter. So if we would change the preset to maybe one that has, you see this is high release, that won't really... Change this. Increase the gate. You see? Then it does matter. So that still depends on your synth. So you get arpeggiate. Arpeggiate is pretty cool. And for some reason you also get this reset parameter over here. Connect. I think it works best for chords. It creates notes in between. So if you have chords, it'll generate you notes in between those chords and basically connect them. Ornament. Oh my gosh. Here's where it gets really complicatedly weird. You see it adds these little flams, these ornamentations, or whatever you may call it. can set the pitch to higher, to lower. Sound design tools, right? These are sound design tools in my opinion. You can also set the chance so these ornamentations don't happen as much. You can see that reflected in the MIDI notes directly with this little panel here. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of that. I feel like this is something that would just completely kill my workflow. If I'm trying to come up with MIDI and have all these little notes and accidentally click on something else and then I think it would, it's pretty confusing to me, to be honest. But nonetheless, it does give you pretty cool results, I have to admit. Flam. If you enable Flam, the notes will be placed only directly before the notes that are already there. So it sounds like the notes are flammed, like they're a bit offbeat, right? Yeah, that's the ornaments. Yeah, now I accidentally misclicked, and have fun with editing this. Have fun with taking away your notes. I'm gonna do that with Command Z. So that's ornamentation. Quantize, you know what quantize is. That's putting the notes on the grid. That's basically the same. If you have notes that are off grid, right, like this, you can set the quantization amount, 16th notes, 8th notes, 4th notes, and so on. You get to see the quantization in real time. Practical if you have an arpeggiated sequence, you slightly shift the notes, you set the grid to 4th, quantization amount 100%, you get chords. Interesting. Let's undo that though. Quantize, recombine. Basically just shifts the MIDI as far as I know. Shuffle. This is great if you have a sequence, an arpeggiated sequence, and you want to unboringify it. If you have that that same freaking arpeggiated sequence, you can just go into recombine and it shuffles that basically. If you enable the shuffle, then it gives you really interesting results. You can also mirror. And what I love most is that you can, let's say, right click, 8th, highlight 1, 2, 3, loop. You get really interesting like technoid sequences. Sometimes you can get like a background arpeggio if you're into organic house. This is something that I would use in techno, for example. Right? That can be really cool. You know, you generate a variety of different information, and then at the end you dial down on a specific section that you like to create something more consistent out of that chaos of notes. And remember, all of these notes are in key because I've set that here beforehand. And I believe that this pitch over here, that's keeping them in key. But I believe that once you have the scale awareness on, you also have the option to blend it in over here. And that will automatically put every note into the scale when you're working with this MIDI opening, MIDI panel, I mean. And if you have a selection like this that you like, you can also stretch it to get really offbeat, off-grid results. Endless possibilities. I really I can't stop explaining. There's so many freaking possibilities. It's just about taking the time to step by step get into them. For me, I feel absolutely overwhelmed by all these functions right now. They're so new, so like overwhelming, but it takes time, right? I'm going to continue to work with Ableton Live the way I know it. But the next time I create chords, I might not end up using Cthulhu or any other plugin that I use for creating chords. I might end up using this because I like it. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Then you get span. I haven't tested this out yet. I think this just offsets the notes, creates longer notes, can add variation. I think they incorporated this function because there was this one Max for Live developer that I actually downloaded his thingy. Where was it again? Gradient, granulator, instant afro, loop, flip, MDD, sting, color limiter. There was this one guy who came up with a device for Ableton Live that allowed you to strum, and the hype around that was crazy. Everybody was like, yeah, you can finally strum in Ableton Live. You can finally add these new MIDI editing options. MIDI. MIDI. Strum. So if you have chords, can we actually get back to the chords somehow? Command Z until we get back the chords. Yeah. If you play chords, if a pianist plays chords, he never plays them like quantized. The chords are never hit the one. They're always strummed. Now you can strum the chords. So you have this brum. Nice. You have different velocities. Oh ho ho. Sexalicious. Really nice. And you can also shift the lower notes, right? So now you go low to high. You can also change it the other way around. Instead of really cool. Yeah, or you could also do it here. Tension. There's this tension knob which adjusts the curve. Yeah, and then you get time warp, which I haven't tested as well. I think it's just a different way to warp the MIDI while staying within that loop of 8 bars here. Yeah. You can see the result that you get out of this are really off-grid, human, unquantized. And I think that's what Ableton Live was aiming for, to add all these new options for looseness, right? Instead of having your standard quantized MIDI. So a bit more options were added. A bit more is underwhelming. You get a lot more, really a lot more. Like this panel alone, rhythm, seed, shape, stacks. You also get like a Euclidean sequencer, which I'm not going to get into because this is way too complex. Ableton Live has a Max for Live device called Euclidean Sequencer Pro. They basically put that in here now. And it allows you to generate notes, but I feel like the notes that are generated are slightly weird. Again, I'm not going to get into that. That's something for another day. Yeah, a lot of cool functions, guys. A lot of cool functions, as you can see. And I probably missed like a shit ton. But those are, I would say, the main things. You can also at any time open up the help view and see if you can... Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Meld and Roar. The two new devices. Jesus, man, those are also new. Yeah, a lot of new things, as you can see. What do I start with first? Let me first of all go into this panel over here. Right now you see your sample rate up here, 44.1. If you click it, you automatically enter the preferences panel. You can now change your theme. Beware of your eyes because it's going to get really light now. Oh no, wait. Classic medium dark, classic medium light. Awa. This is I don't know who would use this theme. If you're somebody who uses this theme. No, I'm just kidding. But it's weird. I personally prefer using medium dark. There was this one glitch that I figured out. It also changes the colors of the devices. And if you have older Max for Live devices like Roser, yep, all the notes are gone. Like the panels, you can't see them unless you change the freaking theme. That's kind of a minor thing, but Roser step sequencer is something that I use pretty often. And I don't know, maybe they might fix it, maybe they might not. It's not a major issue because you can still kind of see them. I just, yeah, don't think that's pretty cool because before that wasn't an issue, now it is. But other than that, that's okay. Like new themes, why not? That's the new UI. I feel like overall the UI has been a bit improved. Looks slightly more minimalistic. Like if you open up this panel over here, you can see that, you know, the extra grid lines were removed. It looks kind of modern. What else do we have? What else do we have? Yeah, there's this new device called Meld, which I love. Like, at first I was like, oh man, Ableton Live is gonna be adding another synth. We don't need another synth. We have so many synths on the market. Why add another synth? It's actually not that bad. It's based on modulars, the plate, I think P-L-A-I-T. That's modular synth modules. And it gives me the sound that I like. Let me just load up any. I'm not going to go into the in-depths of the synth because it is complicated if you go in depth, but at the same time I feel like the interface is kept rather simple. You have these basic shapes. You have two oscillators, oscillator A, oscillator B. Changing the shape basically scrolls through the wavetable here. Right, and you get these very odd shapes, like bubble. If you want some underwater vibes in your track, why not? And yeah, if you combine them, you can get some really weird and interesting sound. Just try to go through your preset. Cracked piano is one of my favorite ones. You can also open up the scale awareness. Meld is currently the only device that has scale awareness available. Other than that, you can also do that here, so I don't see any disadvantage. It's just that I believe that whatever oscillators you tweak will automatically be pitched to your scale, C minor. So you have oscillator A, oscillator B, and if you open up the panel over here, it gets really complicated, as you can see. And yeah, I'm not that type of person to really spend too much time on these individual little tweakings. I just prefer using the presets and having a synth that sounds good from the start. Again, it does give me the sounds that I'm looking for. Yeah, why not? Yeah. And then we get this overly complicated distortion module called Roar, which at first I thought was a bit over the top, but it's very unusual. It's certainly something that we don't have in the market. I mean, of course, it's Ableton Live to Ableton Live 11 to Ableton Live 12, so Ableton had to introduce some kind of new synths to make it feel like it's worth the upgrade for those synth enthusiasts and people who love getting new stuff. But in honesty, I still need to spend more time on this. So like a multi-band distortion module or something like that. Let me reduce the intensity of the crackle here. Let me load up like a delay here by Arturia. So Arturia effects, delay tape 01 maybe. Put like a, no, not a tape delay. Let's go for the eternity delay. And again, for Roar, if you open it up, get all these holy moly functions. You can really dive deep. So if you're somebody who likes to dive deep into synths and spend time on one particular synth for a longer period of time, this is certainly a great device to do so. But for me, I like staying in the flow of making music, you know, kind of progressing towards finishing a track, and I feel like this might be a bit too much. So Roar does come with a lot of presets, audio effects. You can just filter the presets here and just scroll through the sounds. So, like, what is that? Trippy. Really weird. Like it's a freaking distortion, saturation, comb filtering. It has like everything in one. Vintage sounding stuff. Yeah, I did not take the time to get into these. The glitcher presets are great. What I would do for something like that is have a resampling track going on, record whatever's coming from this audio track, and just resample the results. Oops. Let me record arm and... So I'd have that run through maybe like 15 minutes. And just choose snippets of sounds that I prefer using, like maybe just a loop. Or maybe a loop here. Or maybe I don't even have to loop the entire section. Maybe I can just take a snippet of a sound from, wait, let me disable the loop, like this. Tuck, tuck. Go into 16th. Listen through the audio. Maybe I like this chord. I'll just take it here. You know, that's how I usually approach these new devices. If there's a new device, I usually just try to resample the different results, go through the different presets, see if I can get interesting tones, or if I'm really feeling like it and I don't want to make music but get into sound designy stuff. Yeah, this this is certainly a great audio effect to do so. But again, I feel like most of the improvements are within the MIDI over here. As you can see, the chords and all that kind of stuff, the arpeggiation, the sample swapping is amazing. I'm a real fan of, like, only for this sample swapping feature, because, you know, I make a lot of sound packs. For me, having this function to quickly reference sounds from different packs in one particular panel is amazing. And the fact that I can switch through my different sample pack folders here, amazing. It allows me to also utilize all the different sample packs that I have. So I have so many packs that I've acquired over the years. I'd also like to use them. You know, maybe there's a sound in a very old sound pack that I haven't used in quite a few months or years that could end up getting into the track, finding its way into my track. And I feel like they've done a great job on that. Yeah, they've added a lot of minor improvements, like small little bug fixes. I feel like they could have improved the audio editing. Maybe they'll do that in Ableton Live 13 or another update, because currently you can't edit the audio here. What I like about Bitwig is that it allows you to select audio, chop it, place it here, chop it, place it here. Currently in Ableton Live, the only way to do that is here. So you'd have to select a snippet of your sound, and you can then maybe place it differently with Option and Shift. So scroll through the sound like that, go like this, tack, tack. So Ableton Live is, hasn't done anything on that yet. Also, strip silence would have been cool, especially if you have longer resampled clips with a lot of silence in between. It would be cool to have a way to highlight the entire MIDI clip, right-click, strip silence, and it just compresses the audio. It basically cuts the silence out of the audio clip, merges that into one clip. I feel like that's given in a lot of DAWs, not yet in Ableton Live, but again, that's just a minor complaint. Also, Ableton Live now has freeze and flatten. You don't have to freeze track, wait for it to freeze, right click, flatten track. It has now become freeze and flatten track. It would have been great to have a shortcut for that. I feel like it's like, why have a shortcut for freeze track but not for freeze and flatten? That's weird. Like, when I freeze a track, I don't know, maybe I might freeze it to save a bit of CPU or to share the project file with somebody else so he can unfreeze it. And for that sake, it might be practical to have this shortcut, but nah. Freeze and flatten, to have a shortcut on that would be great. Also, to have shortcuts that you could create yourself would be awesome. Like to open up this panel over here without having to do like Command-Shift-3 and do like this T-Rex hand movement. You know? Yeah, that would have been great. Chord function, amazing. So again, arpeggiate, create an arpeggio, 16th. Amazing. Connect. Also, you have this, what I completely forgot, add interval. You can add an interval, so you can highlight all your notes, add interval. Or was it? Okay, I honestly forgot how that works. Oh no, highlight, add interval, 7 halftone steps. Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool, having this add interval function as well. Yeah. I think it's best if you generate random results and then dial in on them later on. So I have a really random little sequence here. Then I can select from that sequence and loop a certain section, right? So this might be like a Stefan Bodzin type ARP or something. Maybe I could just focus in on this particular sequence here and change it. get the point. Crazy stuff. A lot of stuff. But it's definitely worth it. I would say overall, like to sum it up, the upgrade is definitely worth it. At least for me, for somebody who spends a lot of time in Ableton Live, like simply because of the fact that Max for Live exists, I will stick with Ableton Live. Max for Live is one of the reasons why I don't switch DAWs. Simply because, you know, most of the videos that I create are on Max for Live devices because they're so highly creative. And if you don't have a function that's built in Ableton Live, search up the Max for Live devices. There's a ton. For example, Acid Gen. Despite having all of these new features in Ableton Live, I'm still going to get back to this device. Of course, some panels here are blended out because of the theme. That doesn't matter to me. Like, having the opportunity to still patch in these tools is amazing. And I feel like that's something that other DAWs don't have. That's something that's very unique to Ableton Live. Max for Live. Ableton's FL Studio does have Patcher, which is also kind of cool. I feel like the interface is far easier, not as codey as Max for Live. I wanted to try to create my own Max for Live device once, but man, I did not understand how to do that. It was so confusing for me. But having these at your disposal is just, it's cool. And there's so many different developers out there, so many different little companies that are coming up with these fantastic Max for Live devices. Loopflip, one that I showcased recently, is, I swear to gosh, I just stumbled upon it randomly. This guy over here. Like his YouTube channel has a total of, I think, just a couple hundred views. Stumbled upon it, liked it, loved it, made a video on it. Acid Gen, great sequencer to come up with melodies. You know, it gives you really consistent results, and that's simply because of Max for Live. I feel like Ableton is the best DAW in the world. Honestly. And yeah, you could combine it with pitch, use the scale knob over here, and no matter what you do, you'll always stick in scale. Yeah, I'll definitely make a video on this device as well. Like, Ableton Live has implemented so many new features. Arpeggiate, Connect, Ornament, all these melody generation tools. But I'm still going to get back to the Max for Live devices. I'm telling you that. Like, these devices, fantastic. And it's a way to support these smaller developers, you know? I did not read the chat for quite a long while, but thank you so much for everybody who joined in today and commented. Yeah, I felt like just diving deep into Ableton Live today, just to showcase all the different functions for those of you who don't know what is included. I'm going to add chapters to this particular video, so I'm going to make sure to upload it to YouTube and add the chapters. Maybe not straight away, but after a certain period of time for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the release. Maybe there's a few things that I might find before I go. There's this waveform increase knob now, dial in thingy, in case you want to see a bit more, but I think that's confusing. I like to retain the original waveform because I want to see if it's if it has a lot of peaks or not. Maybe you could increase it to 1.5 so you see a bit more of the wave file. But for me, when I import audio that is quiet, I'd like to see that it's quiet. You know, I'd like to increase it manually using this gain slider over here to know its actual volume and to see its actual peak. So I don't know if this is so useful. Might be useful for somebody who's just editing audio after audio, but I don't think it's gonna do that much. CC Control is a new device for output. I mean for hardware gear. There's also a new performance pack by IFTA the same guy who developed the Sting 2022 version. So check that out if you're into more of a performance aspect of Ableton Live. I feel like it's kind of unfortunate that they left that for the Max for Live developers, but it's still cool to have these new features. So IFTA Performance Pack is going to be exclusively available for Ableton Live 12. I think Sonic Bloom YouTube channel made a cool video on the individual functionalities and devices of that. Yeah, a lot of new stuff. I'd say it's worth it. Like, I personally, as somebody who spends all my time in Ableton, simply for the fact that it has this similarity search feature, I'd pay the upgrade. As somebody who creates sample packs regularly, having this option, freaking amazing. For somebody who's not that into chords, who wants to learn more about music theory, having this little, how do you call it? Where was it again? I think it was generate stacks, this stacks thing over here. Freaking amazing. The fact that you get to see your chords down here or what's going on, amazing. Another thing that I wanted to mention is the MIDI keyboard. If you have it enabled, you can now hit Shift and S or A to enter, to use your shortcuts without having to quit your piano roll mode or your MIDI keyboard mode. Gosh. So now Shift and S, Shift and A can still access your single shortcut commands. I think like S and A, those are one letters, right? If you Shift S and A, you can still access them. Other than that, what else was there? Yeah, if you hold A, you go to toggle mode. Let me disable the keyboard now. So, right, let's say I want to go into automation mode. I can do that by clicking A, right? See the automations. Or I could also hold A, let go, and I exit automation mode. Hold A, let go, exit automation mode. Pretty cool if you want to make quick edits. I think it's a minor improvement, but really nice. Yeah, I think I basically showed everything that I wanted to show today. It's still in beta, so they're probably going to make a couple changes. I don't know when it's going to be released, probably towards the beginning of 2024. That's what they mentioned. They don't have any more information on that. Maybe January, February, March, somewhere towards that range. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining in on today's live stream. Hope you enjoyed. Again, I'll make this video or this entire live stream available as a video with chapters, so you can skip through the individual sections, but I'll have to create the chapters, and that's probably going to take a day or two until I get those finished. But in the meantime, again, thank you so much for joining in. I hope you enjoyed my walkthrough of Ableton Live 12. I hope this made it easier for you to understand the individual functions, my honest review, my honest opinion on somebody who uses Ableton Live a lot for work and that kind of stuff, for the tutorials. Hope this made it easier for you to just overall get an understanding if it's worth upgrading for you or not. If you're with Live 11, perfectly fine. You'll still be able to make awesome music. It's not something that you definitely need, but if you need the functions that I've explained today, then it's definitely worth the upgrade. If you have the extra buck and you love Ableton Live, why not invest, right? Anyways, thank you for joining in. I'll see you guys in the next video. I think I'm gonna have to leave a couple seconds of buffer time before I end the stream. So yeah, thanks guys. I'll see you in the next
video.
Cheers guys. Bye-bye.